All right. Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody, to day 3 of the 3-day weight conversion challenge. And so excited to be with you guys again. This is your host, Kate Archibald. And along with me, we have the incredible functional medicine master peptide expert and multi-book author, latest book, Never Stop Healing, Reagan Archibald. Reagan, how's it going?
Going really well. Nice to be here. Really excited.
Awesome. Well, we got some really cool stuff we're going to be diving into today. It is day 3 of the 3-day challenge. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying the last 2 days and really picked up some great things, got some new insights into ways that you can transform your health. And hopefully you've had an opportunity to schedule your consultation. If you have not, this is the last day. We still do have, I think, 1 or 2 spots left. Looks like we have 3 left. And so, get in. I'll post that link right now, and then we'll have a couple other opportunities for that as well. But really excited about that. I know our provider team loves working with you guys, and it's really looking forward to it. And it looks like it's actually able to open up a few days on, or another day, Reagan. So we do have added a few additional days.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've had people calling the office yesterday saying we can't get in. So I'm glad we're able to get those people in who need to, because we are here to help serve you.
Awesome. Well, click on that link to grab it, and then let's jump into the content. Excited about day 3.
Day 3 is this is going to be the deeper dive day. So I just got to warn you guys, it's going to be heady. You're going to hear some data. Maybe there's some words that don't make sense, new scientific terms. Just plug it in the chat box if there's any questions. But I want to welcome you to day 3. Congratulate you on your journey, because by now what you've realized is what we went through on day 1 and day 2 is day 1, we talked about the risks of having insulin resistance. The cost of doing nothing with insulin resistance can result in diabetes. It can result in cardiovascular disease. It can result in very poor mitochondrial function, very poor health. And so, we talked about the fact that if you have skin tags, if you have weight gain, if you have tiredness and fatigue between meals, or if you get hanger, these are all signs of insulin resistance. And then we also talked about thyroid, so we said, get rid of sugar, anything refined, anything processed, the artificial ingredients, you don't need those. Second thing we talked about in day 1 is the thyroid. Do you have cold hands and cold feet? Is your hair falling out? Is your skin dry? Do you have constipation, poor libido? These are all symptoms of hypothyroidism, and the typical labs that you get ran, even if you say, Reagan, I don't have any issues with blood sugar. I don't have any issues with my thyroid. Well, recognize that the labs that you're getting ran in the conventional medical system are only looking for diseases, and diseases show up when it's too far gone. So what we do is we take your lab values and narrow those and make them much smaller. And those are really critical things. And so the second thing we talked about on day 2 is we talked about this great thing that a lot of people miss, most doctors miss, and that's gut health. When it comes to you performing, looking and feeling your best, the gut is such an important part of that. And so we talked about that yesterday as well. And then today we're going to talk about some brand new things. We're going to talk about how to recharge and reboost your energy, create more vitality in your life by activating the mitochondria for superhuman energy. And we're going to talk about growth hormone. I'm going to share with you some case studies. So hang on, because we got a lot to cover today. So once again, our job, there's a great book, and I had a podcast on it this morning called Essentialism. And if you guys don't know what essentialism is, I've had a few people today tell me, Cade, that they said that was so interesting this morning. And but yeah, essentialism, how would you describe it,
Really
Cade,
cool.
from what we talked about?
Yeah, so really focusing on what is essential and cutting out stuff that's not.
Right.
Things that aren't serving you well, things that, maybe bad habits, um, social media, news,
Right.
things like that suck up your time and your energy, where you could be working on more things that serve you, that are more essential to life, or your happiness.
Yes. And so this is what we're going to show you. We're going to put on new glasses. So I live in Midway near the Provo River, and there's great fly fishing, world-class fly fishing there. And when you look at the water on the surface, there's a reflection, so you don't see what's underneath it. And that's like taking a conventional medicine approach to your health. Is they're just looking at things that are on the surface. And then when things get really bad, then you get a diagnosis and you get a medication to suppress the symptom. What we want to do is put glasses on so you can actually see under the water and see what the root causes are, see where the interferences are, the biotoxins, and really discover what's getting in the way of you feeling better. And then once we discover that, what we do is we show you a nice, easy way that anybody can do, even if you failed at other attempts. We have a very strategic program called the Accelerate Wellness Program that shows you easy things to do that yield to massive results when it comes to your overall health. In our programs, we have peptides for every phase of care, peptides like semaglutide to help maximize insulin sensitivity and decrease cardiovascular risk. We have peptides like epitalin, Selenk. We've got ARA 290. All of these peptides are regenerative by nature, and they turn on signaling pathways in your body so that your body can start to supercharge its healing response, and where you start aging in reverse. And that's our goal. And it's these easy things that lead to the big result at the end of the day. The problem with most of us is we don't take action on the right things, and then we end up having what's called death by neglect, where we wait until it's too late to take care of our health problems, or we don't go down the right path, or we think, as soon as I'm retired, I'm going to take care of my health. And then by the time you're 65 or 70, we've got a big hole to dig yourself out of. Or we say, as soon as I'm, finished, my kids are out of school, then I can focus on my health. Well, I can tell you it's a lot more challenging, and there's certain diseases that can set in, and it becomes permanent in your body and permanent in your genes. And so we want to make sure that those easy things not to do, when you have those simple judgments and error over time, what the results are is a 95% failure rate, versus those things that are easy to do. Only 5% of people do that. And I want to congratulate you for being on this, because we're actually showing you the easy way and the path to progression that people have taken with us and had phenomenal success with. So I'm going to ask you a question. When's the worst time to think about the health of your brain? And so I don't know if you guys have heard of Dr. Daniel Amen, but he does these brain scans, and he's discovered that the brain can actually show physiological changes. So the anatomy of your brain can change 20 to 30 years before any symptoms show up. So it's kind of like that old Zen koan is like, when is the best time to plant a tree? And everybody will say today is the best time. And actually today is already too late. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years before you need it. And so it's the same thing with our health, same thing with our brain, same thing with our heart. Because if you think about your heart health, cardiovascular disease shows up 20 to 25 years before any cardiovascular event happens. In fact, 20% of people who have heart disease, the very first symptom that shows up is death, a massive cardiovascular event. And this is a very serious thing, but so many of us, we just push it away and we minimize what's going on in our bodies, and we don't take the proper actions necessary to start reversing some of these chronic disease. So when you just focus on things when there's a problem in your health, you're actually waiting too long. It's like saying, the saying is like, when's the best time to dig a well? Well, before you're thirsty, right? Before you need water. And that's what we're about, is getting to the root cause. So one of the things that starts to impact our lives as we age our hormonal changes. So if you don't mind, what we're going to do is talk about hormones for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to show you how hormones impact your mitochondria. And then what we're going to do is shift gears, and we're going to start talking a little bit more about some of the things you can do to optimize the mitochondria and the energy levels. But first of all, how many of you are concerned that you may have high or low testosterone? More than likely, it'd be the low testosterone. How many of you have ever looked into that? I was just working with one of our patients who has some chronic conditions, some chronic Lyme disease. And, we looked at his testosterone, and he's like 330, and he's younger than me. And I said, well, no wonder why you can't thrive. No wonder why you have all this insomnia and you feel anxious all the time and your blood sugar's through the roof. You've got an atrophy in your muscles. You're getting man boobs, abdominal fat, that you've got low testosterone. And so if you think about it, when you have testosterone that's low, men enter into a phase of life called andropause. Now, we hear about menopause all the time, but andropause is where your testosterone starts to fall and your estrogen levels rise. And it can be very detrimental to your quality of life. And so, with women, I think all of us are familiar with menopause, and it's just as dangerous. With women, they have the forgetfulness. They have these recycled estrogens and conjugated and unconjugated estrogens that don't get excreted properly, and then that can cause hot flashes. They have nausea. They can have appetite issues, either swings where they're super hungry one day and the next day they don't want to eat anything. Heart palpitations, irregular periods, vaginal dryness, joint aches and pains. And both menopause and andropause, you're going to see mood swings, depression, headaches, night sweats, insomnia, weight gain, and bone loss. So these symptoms of andropause and menopause, they get largely ignored, but as we age, think about this, and Kate, we have a lot of men on here. And if you think about that, I'm in my mid 40s, you're in your mid 30s. So even your levels are starting to drop if you're not doing things to counteract that. And then what about when we're in our 60s, right? Does that freak you out at all?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because, if you think about it, it's a huge drop, and we see in our diabetic patients or patients who have insulin resistance, if we can get your testosterone levels up to normal. And by the way, doing this naturally is our favorite method. We use peptides like gonadorelin, kispectin, and I'll talk about these in a minute, but they can actually naturally allow your body to start producing testosterone on your own, even if you're in your 80s or 90s. Like Eldon was in his 90s, and we got his testosterone naturally up to 650. So that's really good. Most labs these days, what they do is the testosterone levels in men worldwide are dropping at a scary rate. And every year it drops by about 3 to 5%. And instead of saying, hey, we got a problem with male testosterone, what we've done is we've just changed the lab parameters. So we just make it lower and lower and lower for testosterone. And now we're seeing kids in their 20s who have low testosterone. And we're saying, why is this? And so what I see is we have a crisis in not only sex identity, where we don't know what a man is or a woman is, but we're having a crisis in these hormones that can really allow your body to thrive. And so one of the things I'm going to share with you is how you can reverse this and how you can actually get your hormones where they need to be, male or female. And so one of the ways we do this is with a peptide called gonadorelin. And gonadorelin, what it does is it helps improve both a luteinizing hormone, follicular stimulating hormone. And this is a classic treatment for infertility in females. Kispectin is the other injection. And what we found is that not only does that help regulate some of the menstrual cycle, so if you have menstrual pain, if you have the mood swings, if you crave chocolate during your menstrual cycle, all these things can be helped with some of these peptides that we're talking about today. The other thing that we found with gonadorelin is it triggers your hypothalamus and pituitary to produce the stimulating hormones for testosterone. And when you stimulate the production of testosterone, it reminds your body how to function when it was younger. So these are a couple options that are totally natural and very effective. So this is one of our patients who came who had low testosterone. His name is Jim. And he came because he wanted to get rid of his knee pain and osteoarthritis. But really, he said, I want to lose 30 pounds to become active again. He said, yes, I only want to get rid of my knee pain so I don't have to get surgery, but I want to get active. And so he's someone who'd pushed himself his whole life. He was very successful in his business ventures, but he'd gotten to the stage where he'd let himself go the last 10 years of his career. And he said, man, if I would have just quit in my 50s, I would be fine. But now here he is, almost 70. And he's like, I've got some weight to take off. And so we started working with him. We found out that sure enough, not only did he have very low testosterone, but his estradiol levels were high. And he said, is this why I get so moody? Is this why, I just feel like, I get emotional. I can either get irritable or angry. And by the way, if you're wondering, number one symptom of having low testosterone for men is the grumpy man syndrome. So, Kate, you see this in dudes who they're like, they want to take themselves out of society. Because we think of testosterone as being like this aggro hormone, but it's not aggro at all. It's actually it's like a holistic hormone that helps calm down the nervous system of men. Men who are the most paranoid and the most panicky have the lowest levels of testosterone. So this is why leaders, when we've ran, Kate, we have a couple of professional athletes and some of them are NFL quarterbacks. And when we run their testosterone, it's like 1600 and they're not taking any testosterone. They can't. It's like that, but it's a leadership hormone, right?
Yeah. It's wild. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's the same thing. And no, we're not a testosterone clinic. That's not what I'm saying. I've seen people do this the wrong way, where if you just take testosterone injections, you can really do a lot more harm than good. And so this is where watching it becomes such a critical part of your overall health journey. But with Jim, once we got his testosterone corrected by using peptides, we got some of his detoxification pathways open with CellCore. We took him through the 5 phases of CellCore. We also started working on his activity levels. So we changed some of his behaviors. We got some cold exposure going for him. And what he said, we did some regenerative medicine in his knees. We got some better fluid built up in there. And he said within 6 months, I was able to play golf, hike, and walk without pain. But more importantly, I was able to get my relationship with food and stress under control, which has been liberating, to say the least. So how many of you struggle with food addiction or food cravings, where you just need something sweet? That was Jim. And so the great thing about Jim is now he lives a life where he can connect with his grandkids. His relationships are much better. But one of the things that we have to do with every single person who enters into a program with us is we've got to get the correct tests ordered. So one of the very first tests that we're going to order is metabolomics. And this metabolomics test is where we can look, or NutriEval, it's a very similar test, but we're going to look at your oxidative stress levels. So how much burden is there on your cardiovascular system? If you have not ran this test with us, this is a very critical test for going upstream and seeing what causative factors are minimizing your health. We'll look at mitochondrial dysfunction, and we look at all of the precursors that your body needs to make ATP, which is energy production that happens in your mitochondria. We'll look at your fatty acid profile. So if your brain's not quite as active and healthy as you want it, well, this will be the most important thing to look at. We'll look at toxic exposure. We'll also look at methylation imbalance. And this is an easy test. You do it at home. It's a simple urine test. And then the other thing we want to do is a functional blood chemistry profile, where we can look at all your thyroid markers, how your immune system's functioning. We'll look at your liver, cardiovascular function, everything in much more detail than what you've ever had ran. So these are some of the tests that we start out with. Some of the other tests that we look at is adrenal function. You can see in this patient who had insomnia. And by the way, if you're not sleeping, you're not going to burn fat efficiently. And being on 4 hours or less sleep, if you're operating on that, your ability to make great decisions is similar to someone who's inebriated with alcohol. So, so it's like, if you're not sleeping well, your brain's functioning as if you're a drunk all the time, which is scary,
Wow.
right? Yeah, so the adrenal profile gives us a very good understanding of how your HPA axis is working, where your stress is, and why you may or may not have sleep disturbances. And then we do a digestive profile. So we see how well you're producing enzymes to break down your foods, because if you really want to get the health of your dreams and really start feeling and looking your best, well, you've got to start breaking down nutrients. I don't know of any other way you can get your blood healthy than by fixing your digestive system. And most people miss this. The other thing that we look at in this whole profile is we're going to look at this specialized marker called your beta glucuronidase. And beta glucuronidase will show us how well you break down estrogens, because some of you ladies, you go to your OBGYN or your naturopath or whoever, and they say, well, why don't we just put you on some estradiol? We'll put a little cream, we'll put some progesterone in it, minimize any risks of, cancer. But really the problem is, if you're not metabolizing and detoxifying from the estrogens, adding more into the mix is going to make things worse in the long run. You may feel better temporarily, but your beta glucuronidase, which is an enzyme in your digestive tract, if that's not able to break down those conjugated estrogens and pull them out of your body and detoxify them, and if they become unconjugated, then you have estrogens that keep recycling, and then you just put on more and more weight. So we've got to look at the gut. We talked about that yesterday. And then we got to see if you've got an infection. We want to look at that firmicute and bacteroides ratio. So all of these tests are really important, because the number one thing that we do in our programs is we analyze the data. And once we've analyzed the data, then we start optimizing those pathways. And once those pathways are optimized, then your body starts to heal itself. And that's where the real transformation occurs. In our program, it's a 7-month process. There's a 60-day reset, a 60-day recharge, and then a 60-day restore, so that you can reclaim your health for good. And yes, I know, Kate, you're probably doing the math. You're like, that's 6 months, Reagan. But we have, we have a couple of weeks on the beginning and the end where we tie up any loose ends. So, all right. So what questions do we have, Kate?
So it looks like you've covered them all so far. I think we're doing well.
Okay, great. So let's talk about interferences. So in your body, the more interferences you have, the more impact that has on longevity. So how many of you have ever just asked yourself the question of, how long do you want to live? And one of my goals with every single person I work with is I want to make sure that I add some life and health extension to them. So if I can add on 10 more years onto somebody's lifespan and health span, it's not just your life that's impacted, it's the 100 to 150 relationships that you have. Those are also people I'm concerned with. I want to make sure that you can have really high quality relationships. And there's two things that happen when we start reversing your aging. Number one, you have more energy and you become more productive. And the more productive you are, the better your financial stability will be, because more opportunities come into your life. The second thing that happens when you get healthy and you start reversing aging is you start connecting with people deeper in your relationships. And it creates this recharge and this resurgence of energy. And so David Sinclair, who's one of the leading researchers, and he wrote a book called Lifespan, what he says is aging, quite simply, is a loss of information. So one of the ways that we regain that information is through the use of peptides. And when we use peptides, what they do is they remind the cells how to communicate with each other, how to receive messages, and how to send messages efficiently. David Sinclair, what he said is, man, what if there's a way to reset this clock in our body so that we can reverse aging? And so that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today too, because ultimately the fastest way that we can get you burning fat and putting on muscle mass and stopping those insidious diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. The fastest way we can do that is by turning back the clock on aging. Because ultimately there's some researchers like David Sinclair who say the only disease that exists is one disease called aging. Because when you're aging, that's when your DNA is not sending out the right message to each cell. And then that's when your body has inflammation, interferences, and excessive amounts of biotoxins. So I'm going to share with you one of the patients that maybe you can relate. She had chronic pain. She was depressed. She had obesity. She had 7 joint replacements and was on 17 medications. So, Kay, do you remember the definition of polypharmacy syndrome?
Sorry, on mute. Yeah, 5. So it's 5 or more medications, 100% chance of interaction, right?
That's right. Yes. 100% chance. And so we looked at this and we said, we don't know if it's the medications that's causing the depression. She was tired all the time, or if it's the disease itself. And so we took her down our protocol, and the 60-day reset, we asked her to do 6 core things. We asked her to, number 1, start hydrating. Half your body weight now is that she was not drinking enough fluids. We got her on the right electrolytes. We asked her, number 2, no sugar. And so her electrolytes couldn't have sugar in them. So make sure you guys take note of that. We asked her to get cold exposure. We asked her to start exercising twice a day. We asked her to go to bed at 9:30. And then the 6th thing we asked her to do is just simply every morning do this ritual called the Mindset Morning and start creating some goals for yourself and thinking about a bigger future. And so she made the commitment to do it. And it was not easy. And we worked with her primary care doctor, and eventually she started getting off the medications. And what she realized is every medication she got off of, her energy levels popped up. And then before you know it, she's walking better. She had less pain. She's getting out of bed. She's moving. And as you can see here afterwards, she's lost almost 100 pounds. She's feeling better. She's looking better. And she's also off all of her medications. And so such an important thing. But the biggest thing that she learned through her process is she had to learn to relax and then reflect on her life. And that's what that Mindset Morning did for her. She said, I can look back and I can reflect on all the things that have happened. And then that was able to allow her to recharge her energy and recharge her mitochondria. So that's an exciting thing that can happen. So next, let's talk about cardiovascular health, because this is really important: longevity and metabolic flexibility. So we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about brain health for a minute here. But how many of you would say you're happy with your cognitive abilities right now? Like you just feel like you can remember things really well. You have, great ability to be creative. You don't get stressed. You have a great resiliency to stress. How many of you that would fit you? And hopefully a lot of you feel like, yes, this is me. But for those of you that don't and would like, maybe you do, you feel good, but you're like, what if we could improve it by 7%? And it's really a big thing. So let's talk about biohacking the brain. And there's this neurotransmitter called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this is one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to your overall health. Not only will it help you lose weight more efficiently because your brain won't be in that chronic stress response, but you're going to feel more like yourself. So BDNF, now this is from the National Academies of Sciences. They said BDNF helps improve the growth of your brain. Now that sounds kind of weird, the growth of your brain. Well, I thought once I lost a brain cell, it's gone. So, how many times, Kate, did you hear you're going to kill your brain cells, like playing football and riding motorcycles?
Lots, yeah.
Yeah, all the time. And so it's because, we didn't have this construct and this understanding of how the brain actually functions. But what we've learned is there's this beautiful neurotransmitter called BDNF, and that helps form new formations and new creativity in your brain. So when BDNF is high, you're going to acquire new knowledge in an effortless way. You'll be able to retain precious memories and learn new skills. People generally feel happier. Exercise, sunlight, all help with naturally improving BDNF. And so think about how, excuse me, how good you feel when you've gone on a walk. You know, when you just get outside, get in the sun, that's a really important thing. So BDNF is such a powerful neurotransmitter because it turns on your brain again. So think about how good you felt after you've gone and mountain biked, you know, for example, or cycled or done a Peloton workout or a CrossFit workout or whatever you like to do for exercise. That is one of the fastest ways to increase BDNF. And BDNF is the gateway to this beautiful molecule called IGF-1, which helps stabilize the blood sugar in the brain. Here's what happens if you have low BDNF. You're going to have difficulty learning things. You'll have Alzheimer's disease will set in, or other forms of dementia, depression, mood swings. You can get that going in on a Monday, like just kind of like that overall blah. You can have brain fog. And so these can all be your low BDNF levels dropping. So one of the first things we want you to do is get sun exposure. BDNF levels, they rise and fall with the seasons. And so, you know, based on what time of year it is, you're going to need more sun exposure. And so not only getting out in the sun, what the research shows is even 10 minutes can raise your BDNF. But the other thing you want to do to increase your BDNF is get great sleep. So once again, in our first thing that we ask all of our members to do in our Accelerate Wellness program is to start going to bed earlier and getting out in the sun. Try to spend 30 minutes a day out in the sun, outside, even if there's not direct sun. You know, one of our members in the Accelerate Wellness, she lives up in northern Montana, and it's some of the cloudiest place in the country in the winter. So no direct sun, but it's still helpful to get out there. The other way is exercise. So what we found is that if you can engage in some kind of cardiovascular or high intensity interval training, you can increase your BDNF. And one of the biggest ways, and this was published in experimental physiology, but they found the biggest way to increase your BDNF is sprinting, jumping, and lifting heavy things. That's pretty cool. Cade can lift like a beast, like a Viking, like he's super strong. So every time you do that, Cade, do you notice your brain works a little better that day?
Yeah, when I lift a lot, it's just better mental clarity, that's for sure.
Isn't it crazy? Yes. So BDNF, here's a study that they found that when you increase your BDNF, you increase IGF-1. And that's insulin-like growth factor, and that does the work for growth hormone. So if you literally want to make your brain younger, you've got to exercise. And so here's a study to prove that. And that's a big part of getting your body fit, is get the exercise going. So high intensity, what they found in the working group of the people who had the highest amounts of high intensity exercise, they had the largest secretion of BDNF. So pretty exciting. Some of the foods you can do is we found that coffee can also increase your BDNF. So for those of you that love coffee, great. If you don't love coffee, no problem. But coffee, what we found is if you add L-theanine, add collagen, maybe a little bit of grass-fed butter and some chocolate bone broth and salt, this is my favorite blend, you're going to have this incredible boost of BDNF. And it's not lousy, is it, kid? It's pretty fun when you can get that right mix.
Yeah, no, you can. I think coffee, you know, there's all sorts of stuff out there that says it's bad, and then there's other things that says it's good. And I think it's all about, you know, how you drink it, what you put in it. Because I think most of the reason why the coffee gets such a bad rap is, you know, the quality of coffee is sometimes can be really poor. Can have a lot of mold, but then the other thing is what people put in it. It's like a lot of sugar, a lot of artificial flavorings and things like that are pretty toxic. So this is like my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right,
great way.
Fats in there.
So good for you.
Chocolate bone broth makes it nice little finish.
Yes.
Yeah, and a little salt.
Yeah,
baby. I'm ready to go make one right now.
good combination. And so for those of you who get energy crashes after caffeine, after drinking coffee, then you need the L-theanine so you don't get your adenosine receptors fatigued. So add in the L-theanine, it makes a huge difference. And make sure, you got to make sure your adrenals are healthy. We'll test you, and then we can see if if you can tolerate it. The other way you can really boost, not only can you boost your brain health, but boost your IGF-1 and really help improve your overall health is by removing sarcopenia. So as we age, our body starts to lose muscle and we put on fat. And so what happens is there's a condition called sarcopenia. And so 88% of adults over 55 are at risk of sarcopenia. And this is when your blood vessels get all brittle, your heart is not efficient, and then your muscles become insulin resistant. And the muscles are the largest mass on your body that depend on insulin for energy. And so if your muscles aren't good, you're not going to burn fat efficiently. And if you don't burn fat efficiently, then your body gets more inflamed. And the more inflammation you have, the more fat that you put on, and the more interferences and the more toxic you get. And so sarcopenia, if you've ever seen somebody, or maybe you're yourself, you say, well, I got all this skin in my arms now, and I don't know what that is. And you start looking, you say, man, I don't thrive like I used to. Well, sarcopenia, there's a peptide that went through the FDA clinical trials, and it made it all the way through and was approved as a medical grade peptide for sarcopenia. And it's called sarcotropin ipamorelin. And what it's got in it, and it's one of my favorites, it's got the pramorelin. That's a growth hormone releasing peptide 2. It's called ipamorelin. It's got vitamin D3 as cholecalciferol for your hormones and your bone health. It's got the vitamin K2, MK7 version, the mannatoquinine. It's got alpha GPC, DMAE, and GABA. So those are the nootropics to light up your brain. And then for the circulation, for the damage to the blood vessels, the L-leucine, L-arginine, and L-pyroglutamic acid. And then it's got the mucuna purines and velvet bean, along with the rosacea plum juice to help with the ghrelin secretion so you're not hungry. So this is a phenomenal formula. And what the research shows is it helps with cognition and the total ability to lose weight. What they found is there's a 9% loss of total body fat in this 90-day phase 3 study, 14% loss of visceral fat, 5% gain in lean muscle mass, and a 16% increase in IGF-1. So phenomenal things that can happen in our programs. And these are some of the treatments that we've used to help eradicate the inflammation and the interferences so you have better energy. So, Cade, how do we do today? How many of you are ready to do something different, more bold, more dynamic for your health, and take that next step and actually start putting things into action that we've been sharing with you today? So if that's you, we're going to have one more. I know, we've had a couple of you sign up since we started, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. My purpose is to help as many people as I can get as healthy as possible. I look at every single human that I ever meet with, and I say, man, what relationships do they have, and how important is this meeting? You being on this could change your life forever. I don't know if you realize that, because I don't emphasize it enough, and I apologize if it doesn't come through like that, because you have people in your life who depend on you, and I know you have a life that you want to be living to its fullest. And so I believe everything we do is designed around helping your body progress in ways you never imagined possible. And so for those of you who still are hesitating, you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to make a commitment to do something about my health. Well, I can tell you now is the time. There is a cost of doing nothing. And that cost of doing nothing, sometimes we forget. I had a friend who was super healthy. We actually went mountain biking, and he crushed it. Very cardiovascular health was amazing. And, he kind of ignored, I don't go to doctors, he's a lawyer, and he's like, just kind of was too good for that. And he said, man, I'm healthy. Every time, he's ever looked at me, he had no body fat. He looked just amazing. But what happened the next day is he's working on his bike in his garage and he has a massive heart attack, dies. Left 3 kids behind, devastation for the whole community because he was such a leader. You know, his organization suffered, everything suffered, but he was too cavalier. It was death by neglect. He didn't take the time to actually look into what was going on in his heart, because he had these LDL particles genetically that were just, they were just waiting to find the right inflammation. And I think we pushed it too hard mountain biking, and it just created some cardiovascular inflammation, and it led to an unfortunate event. So I don't want that to happen. So the biggest thing I'm going to encourage each one of you to do is lean in. You know, we've got incredible programs, you know, our fat burning health accelerator course, 100 days to 100% results. It's a great way to launch this. We have a step-by-step program. We have a do-it-yourself program. If you're like, hey, I don't want to invest into my health right now, I got to get my finances fixed. Well, you know, no problem. Let's get you on, you know, let's figure it out, but let's get you some help, because the program is all about building out a better future for yourself. So once again, you've got 2 options today. One of these options is you can go down the path of conventional medicine, and you can just keep masking the disease, masking the symptoms that you've got with more medication. You know, it's that analogy I use with the fishbowl. You've got the dirty fishbowl. Well, maybe we can throw some medication in there at it. You know, the fish, the orange is really dull. Let's take the fish out and paint it. You know, or you can say, well, let's clean up the environment and let's create a brighter,
Nice and shiny.
nice and shiny. So it's okay. The 2 pathways, people have a choice today, and this is it. So any advice you'd want to give people, like, who wouldn't want to sign up for a consult and see if they qualify to be a part of our program?
Yeah, I would be surprised if there's any, and I think most people on here by now, most of you have already scheduled your consultation, but we still have a few of you that maybe are on the fence. Maybe you're wondering, is this going to be worth my time? And that's the one thing where I can't think of something better that you could you know, spend a good 60 minutes focused on where you want to take your health and how you're going to get there, and have a plan of action at the end of that tells you, you know, where you're going to go with this through our Accelerate Wellness programs. I can't think of a better way, and like we've said in the past, if you come into that appointment, we block off a full hour on our provider schedule. If at the end of that, we don't think we can help you, it's 100% refundable. So if you're not happy, satisfied with that hour consultation, then we'll pay that right back to you. But the link is right here in the chat box. Make sure you go in there. I've added a few additional days in there, so we have a few extra spots for a little bit further out, and I was able to add some extra appointments. Luckily, with the team opened up their schedule a little more, so I knew we were running low. So go in there and grab an appointment. I can't think of a better thing to do to get closer to your health goals than anything else at this point.
Right. So just to summarize, you know, we've had 3 days and it's been amazing. And we started out this whole challenge, this 3-day weight conversion thyroid challenge. And we said, you know what, we're going to be focusing on getting residual results for every single person on this challenge. And so hopefully some of the things we've asked you to put into place, you know, we asked you to do bone broth, and we talked to you about, you know, put some chocolate bone broth in your coffee. Make your own bone broth. I know several of you do that. We said, get rid of sugar, those artificial sweeteners. You don't need them. They're not essential in your life. We asked you to clean up your water, because just by using and drinking tap water that's fluorinated for a week causes signs of hypothyroidism based on the literature. And then today we asked you, hey, maybe you could exercise a little more and get your brain engaged, get some brain-derived nootropic factors going. What about that? How about getting some of those tests ran that you haven't had ran in a long time, or maybe you've never had them ran, that are going to be beneficial for you? And so when you sit down and meet with us, we'll shoot straight with you. We'll let you know if we think you're a good candidate for our program or not. The very first thing we're going to want to do is look at any labs you've had ran recently. So send those in. And then we're going to want to make sure that we understand your goals, what your objectives are for life. And we're going to look at what's been frustrating to you when it comes to your health. And then we will give you a very clear understanding about how we can reclaim your health, how long it will take. We'll let you know everything that you need to know on that visit, including future investments. And then we'll also let you know what additional tests we may need to run for you. So once again, like Kate said, we have 100% clarity guarantee. You will get 100% refund so that we have an amazing team here. We've got Sarah Sapinski, functional medicine practitioner, gut expert. We've got Dr. Amy Steinley, who's new on our team, and holy cow, she's amazing at gut health as well, hormones. We've got Heather, who's a phenomenal practitioner. We've got Jenny, who's our pit bull nutritionist. Jenny's the one that really holds you accountable. So imagine having a mentor and somebody who can actually not just tell you what to do, but also show you how to do it. And she does walk the talk. So there's a whole process that resides in here, because what's required if you want to make any big changes in life, and this is from Ray Dalio's work called Principles, is one of his great books and app. But what's needed is bringing what you already know about health, and many of you know so much, and I've had the amazing experience of working with so many of you on your health journey, and some of you on this we haven't met in a while. So make sure you click on the link and get your appointment set up with me. But you've got to have this humble open-mindedness and bring what you already know and start bringing that to life. And that will be a really powerful thing, because when you do that, then you can take action. And so what Mark Twain said is, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So I want you to just take a minute right now and get in your body and just kind of take a couple deep breaths and remember when we started. What was your intention? Why did you get on this 3-day summit? How many of you, you said, well, I want to find out if I've got problems with blood sugar. I want to make sure I'm not putting myself at risk for cardiovascular event. How many of you said, I just want to figure out better ways of losing weight? And so if you go back, how many of you feel more clarity now that we've gone through this? Now maybe you see, okay, wow, there are some treatment solutions that are very novel. We just learned about sarcotropin ipamorelin, and that's, wow, if I could, the average person lost 9% of their body fat in 90 days. They lost 14% weight. They increased their IGF-1, like, sign me up. I want to do something. How many of you are excited because you learned that maybe it's the water you're drinking that's caused your hypothyroidism? Just think about everything you've done to get to where you are today, and just thank yourself. Just give yourself a minute to say, wow, I did that. That was me. And then, once again, take the next step, because the next step, like Kate mentioned, typically we charge $287 for our complete overall evaluation and analysis. We'll go through hormone, peptide, cardiovascular, inflammatory risks, and then we put a plan of action together for you. Like we've mentioned before, for everyone who's on this summit, we're taking $200 off this visit, so it's just $87. And so you've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. I want to thank you guys for being part of this. Remember, this whole process that we're taking you through is what's going to really help you get the result that you're looking for and help you reclaim the health that you've lost and that's rightfully yours. So I want to thank all of you. And Cade, I'll turn it over to you. I know I've got to run to patients, and I can't wait. I know many of you have signed up, and I'm so excited for you. Some of you are in our program, and I want to thank you. You guys are just amazing people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Reagan. amazing last 3 days. Thanks for putting the content together, and you have a wonderful day.
Will
And
do.
everyone out there on this webinar, grab the link. It's posted there in the chat box. Go find the time and day that works best for you and take advantage of this. It is, this is a one of a kind experience that you can have, and I know it's going to benefit you greatly. Some typical questions that we'll typically get, how long does it take, or what's your program look like? We've talked about that a little bit, but it's typically a 7-month process, where we're taking you through our 3 different our reset, recharge, and reset, recharge, and reclaim. So that's the process we take you through. So it's a 6-month process with a little bit of time in between the beginning and the end. And so we really dive into whatever issues you're having and come up with a treatment that's a strategy that's going to create a solution for the underlying cause, as well as you're getting training, curriculum, and education throughout the process. And these peptide treatments that we're doing, we're just seeing amazing outcomes. So it's really exciting stuff from that angle. Another question that we'll typically get is, can I afford it? Absolutely. We've had people on fixed income, disability, Social Security, single moms, single dads, and we've been able to figure out ways to make it affordable for them. We don't hold back on our treatment plan. So we may prescribe a very comprehensive approach. And if that's just too far out there, we can always customize that to fit it in. But our plan is we would rather not let finances get in the way of you getting healthy. And so we like to get creative and figure out ways that we can help people. So don't ever let that be the reason why you don't take advantage of this, because this is going to be just a one of a kind experience for you. And we do have there's a question on a replay link. We do have a page where you can watch each of this content. There's some recordings. It's not this identical one, but it's some previous ones. I posted that in the chat box there for you. PL Peters, not sure what your first name is, but you can, and then from there you can also book your evaluation and consultation. So thank you guys so much for joining us the past 3 days. This has been a blast. Hopefully you got away with some good challenges, some good information, amazing things going on in the world of peptides, for whether it's weight loss, whether it's hormone balancing, whether you have autoimmunity. There's so many dynamic things that we've been able to get very, very positive results and outcomes with our patients. So love you guys so much. Thanks for joining us, and click the link there in the chat box and get yourself some help. Bye-bye for now.